Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's Appraisal Buzzcast. My name is Jim Morrison, and with me, as always, is our host, Hal Humphreys. Hey, Hal, how are you doing?
Hi, Jim. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Well, we have a great topic today. It's something that's a hot button topic, something we're hearing about a lot, and that's discussing AI and computer vision and what it means for appraisers. And our guest today is Vincent Chu, who's the CTO and co-founder of HomeVision. Hey, Vincent.
How's it going? Pretty
Doing
good.
Vincent,
great. Thanks for joining us.
Vincent, it's going great. And thank you so much for taking the time to visit with us. There may be a couple of listeners out there who don't know who you are. So if you don't mind, tell us kind of a little bit of your background, what's your history in the industry, and what Home Vision is doing for real estate appraisals.
Yeah. So my name is Vincent Chu. I started HomeVision with my co-founder, Jeff Foster, in 2020, ultimately to bring next generation automation tools to the valuation industry and collateral underwriting more broadly. Just speaking, very quickly, Jeff has a long history in the mortgage industry, and he's, worked in housing policy reform during the first term of the Obama administration. My own personal background is in technology, and I've worked at a variety of large and small startups. One of the small startups you may have heard about, where I worked previously, was Twitter, where I was able to release products to some 400 million odd users. So that was quite an interesting experience. And Jeff and I really started our partnership together when we were working together on a direct-to-consumer mortgage lender called Clara Lending, which was later sold to SoFi. So really, a lot of our perspective on valuations on this industry is really driven by our own background in mortgage lending and mortgage lending operations. And when we started HomeVision, the fundamental question we really wanted to ask ourselves was, why is it that appraising a home, valuing the collateral took so long, cost so much, and why all parties involved, lenders, AMCs, appraisers, nobody seemed to be super happy about the process. And, that was one of the core questions that led us to the founding of HomeVision and the development of our main product called Mira. And what Mira is broadly is a platform that can read and understand information from the entire appraisal, not just the 6 pages of the 1004, but all of the textual commentary, all of the photos, the sketches, and the maps, all of the stuff that makes an appraisal, and not just a single number, and leverage that information to understand whether or not it matches the lender's policy for that specific loan. And we use this intelligence, this technology at all levels of the collateral underwriting and appraisal process. And so for underwriters at lenders or review staff at AMCs, it means that they'll be able to understand and review the appraisal much more efficiently and underwrite an appraisal for a variety of different loan programs, whether it's conventional, VA, FHA. We kind of handle all of those. For appraisers specifically, we have a product called Mira PreCheck, which actually takes and makes available a lot of the intelligence of Mira directly to appraisers in real time as they're submitting reports to lenders or appraisal management companies. And it's tied in directly so that when the appraisal is being submitted in real time, we can basically run the policy against the submitted appraisal and basically check it for a variety of common errors. And basically, ultimately, over time, that means for the appraiser, fewer revisions, faster cycle time, less wasted effort dealing with repeated rounds of back and forth revisions. And for appraisers particularly, that's like a real deep point of frustration with the current process. There really just isn't great alignment between what appraisers are asked to do and what lenders really want. And I think a symptom that I think a lot of your listeners will probably hopefully sympathize with is sort of just the whirlwind of confusing LOEs and revision requests and different things that people in this industry have had to deal with. And, I think for us, when we built Mira and Mira PreCheck, that was our hope, was really to bring a lot of alignment between lenders, AMCs, and appraisers. And we've seen some pretty dramatic improvements when PreCheck is used. On average, we can have the revision rate, which is, I think, a win for everybody involved, Appraisers are seeing fewer revisions. They're more profitable with their time. Lenders are getting higher quality orders and appraisals on the first time and higher and faster cycle times. So that's
Okay.
in a nutshell what we do.
That I'm thinking specifically of the total a la mode red flag product. It sounds like that on steroids.
Yeah, it's that on steroids. The a la mode red flag product really covers a much more limited set of things, like pretty obvious UAD exceptions, or
Yep.
we forgot to do X, Y, or Z. But we can do things like, was there a person in the photo inadvertently? We can catch that. We can sort of highlight that to you because we're tied in with the lender and the AMC. And also, like, honestly, cut out a lot of the what we might call boneheaded mistakes. Forgot to put the right lender address in. The file name's inconsistent. We also offer a chance for the appraiser to essentially explain like why they couldn't do a 1004 because it's really a condo or something else. And all of that explanation actually goes to the reviewer or to the underwriter so that they can kind of say, oh yeah, this really is a condo property. They got it wrong. They said it was a single family, it's condo. So what pre-check really tries to do is to be that co-pilot for the appraiser, so they basically have fewer revisions at the end of the day.
Okay. I love it. Well, let me do this. I want to take a quick moment and hear from one of our sponsors, and then we'll be right back.
LIA Administrators and Insurance Services, serving valuation professionals since 1978. We provide E&O insurance with a commitment to superior customer service, outstanding liability education, and unmatched claim defense, benefiting over 10,000 real estate professionals nationwide. Explore our exclusive appraiser liability education by Peter Christensen and cost-effective seminars designed to foster your growth. Our underwriters, with an average of 26 years of experience each, are dedicated to supporting appraisers. Visit liability.com to discover how LIA can safeguard your business.
Welcome back, everybody. You're listening to the Appraisal Buzz. I'm Hal Humphreys, your host. I'm joined today by Vincent Chu, CTO of HomeVision. Vincent, you were talking just before the commercial break about the kind of lack of alignment between what appraisers are asked to do and what lenders want from appraisers. And I think that's one of the spots where appraisers are asked to do a number of things. Appraisers have to do a number of things to comply with USPAP. I think some lenders, and I'm not saying all, but some lenders would just as soon not have an appraisal at all. They know what the thing is worth. Let's just get this loan done. Is there a balance to be found there that is well, first of all, do you think some lenders think the way I just articulated? And then is there a balance to be found there of, allowing appraisers to comply with USPAP and meet the actual regulations and giving lenders a product that is useful?
Yeah. I mean, I think lenders come in all shapes and sizes. I think one of the interesting things is that I think almost every lender has its own way it grew up.
Yep.
And its own set of, almost rules that they've discovered has helped them be successful in the market. I think part of the issue is that their requirements, their underwriting requirements, what they're looking for, how they've chosen particularly to interpret the selling guides or the overlays or all the various different policies that they're asked to comply with, they oftentimes don't even themselves have a codified version of what they're looking for. And so I think what happens in the industry is that AMCs who themselves cater to a large number of lenders and appraisers who themselves cater to a large number of lenders through AMCs or whether they're on a direct panel or whatnot, are all a little bit in the dark about why and so you'll see things like on an LOE that maybe came about from one bad loan several years ago, and that's why it's on the LOE and no
crafting an LOE based on the idea of we just can't think of enough things to tell them not to do.
Yeah.
Okay, so it seems like when I hear officials at some officials at the GSE, some people at the FHFA, and lenders for certain talk about appraisals, the word friction is used quite often. It is the most friction laden part of the process. It seems like this product is designed to lessen that friction. Am I reading that right?
That is correct. And what we ultimately want, is we believe that aligning lender policy with AMC policy, with what appraisers are asked to go out into the field and actually do, whether it's an FHA loan where you actually have to poke your head up into the attic, or it's not an FHA loan, you don't have to do that. All these different things, we're really trying to streamline that process so that ultimately the loan or the lender gets what they want, what they're expecting to see on the first try. And appraisers and all the parties in between, from lender to appraiser, they don't have to suffer, kind of what we might call brain damage, the frictionful piece of getting it right, not just after 4 or 5 rounds of review,
Yeah.
but on the first go.
Okay. So in kind of trying to think through this, and Vincent, I'm just going to give you a pass because I've gone way off script here. But you're rolling with it pretty well. We're talking about what the lenders want. We're talking about revision requests going back and forth and back and forth. Vincent, we've talked about kind of trying to lessen the friction and make it a little bit easier to deal with. And I'm assuming that Mira has been designed to kind of deal with the 1004 form and the forms that currently exist. I'm curious about the new UAD, and do you think that combined with HomeVision and Mira might actually be an even greater friction reducer?
Yeah, and I think, the UAD redesign has been a long time coming, and
Oh yeah.
steady progress. And I think what we would say is that, Mira works on 1004s, 1073s, 1075s, 2055s. It works on BPOs, works on the broadest range of valuation forms that are out there. What we've really designed and built internally at HomeVision is a document understanding platform. And it's somewhat agnostic to the particular form.
Okay.
So what it's looking for, structured form data, textual data, photographic data, and it's trying to understand that in totality. So it knows that if it sees a solar panel on a photo, it's going to see on the comp grid if those solar panels were mentioned as a feature of the home, or in the textual commentary, if there's some reason why they were or weren't. We can do that for things like adverse influences. We can do that for things that we see on the maps or on the sketches. If we notice an ADU that's on the sketch that's not mentioned in the report, those are the types of cross correlations that we can do. And those are very specifically the types of issues that lenders often look for and are oftentimes missed, oftentimes because, appraisers going fast, or, they make a simple mistake, or maybe, God forbid, they just attached the wrong photo. They're just, they went to 3 houses that morning. It's all in so all of these things we look for and check. And I think that's going to help with the UAD or with the current forms, whatever format the appraisal data comes in.
Okay. And I'm literally thinking back on a project that I worked on last year where I was in a software and moved my sales around in the mobile app, and then the photos got out of sync when I synced it with the desktop app. And I did not catch that the photo was of the wrong house over. It just scooched them all one down. Would Mira pick up on that?
Yeah, can you pick up on certain types of inconsistencies? For instance, if you don't attach the correct number of bedroom photos, if you don't on the sketch label every bathroom, we can look for those types of inconsistencies, things that happen specifically when people are going fast and working quickly.
And appraisers are always going fast because they've always got somebody barking at them,
Absolutely.
to move faster. And it's just one of those things. All right, so let's move on. Everybody is crazy excited these days about artificial intelligence, AI. AI has been reshaping the real estate appraisal process. I've seen some unfortunate attempts to use AI by individuals that are like, no, 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 don't do that. That's the wrong way to use it. Um, how do you find that balance between using artificial intelligence and automated, you know, methods and processes against the human expertise in the appraisal profession and that thing that appraisers are valued for, which is should be their ability to gather, verify, and analyze data and report their findings in a logical way?
I think it's interesting because, if you're naive to this industry, you kind of say, well, isn't everything just as estimate? Can I just use an AVM for everything? And I think it's important to remember first that, the number that an AVM produces is simply a component of the entire valuation, arguably maybe even a small one at that. And what purpose the appraiser and the appraisal serves ultimately for a lender is ultimately around understanding risk. And that is what humans are good at. And that's actually I think, one of the core beliefs here at HomeVision is that the appraiser is central to the appraisal. And humans are much better at judging risk because it's not just a single number, but it's really a multifactorial analysis. And that's what humans are good at. I think the real problem in this industry is that appraisers aren't able to focus on the valuable bits of that job. They're really kind of asked to keep check on all the nitpicky stuff, all of the little things that can trip up an appraisal, which ultimately leaves them less time to focus on what matters, which is appraising the property.
Yeah.
So I think one of the key opportunities and challenges I think that we face is, how do we continually enhance the capability of an appraiser to deliver files, to give them superpowers, if you will, that continues to place them at the center of the process, but also makes them a real user of the product, not just, sort of another input into it, but
Right.
a real partner in that process. And that's one of it. That's probably harder than just even the technology itself, because it's a usability problem, it's an interface problem, it's a cultural problem, because quite frankly, a lot of providers in this space don't treat appraisers with the respect that they deserve.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. That is a great place to take a break and hear from our second commercial sponsor, and we'll be right back.
The Dictionary of Real Estate Appraisal, 7th edition, is a landmark text that reflects the depth and breadth of appraisal knowledge. Each entry, definition, and reference has been painstakingly researched and designed to reflect an expert understanding of issues that currently impact the profession. The new dictionary is an essential authoritative resource for all appraisers. The dictionary is divided into 2 sections, an alphabetical listing of terms directly related to real estate appraisal, and an addendum with topical glossaries and compilations of terms used by related real estate professionals. Find it at appraisalinstitute.org/dictionary7.
Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to the Appraisal Buzz. I'm Hal Humphreys, your host. And if you didn't get a chance to hear the last segment, I'm going to encourage you to go back and listen to it and pay attention to the words that Vincent Chu uses. But he talked about the fact that appraisers are sometimes not given the respect due. And Vincent, thank you for saying that, because I think that's one of the most important things in this industry. Is I was at a conference a couple of weeks ago and somebody said, they used the phrase, well, just ask the data. And the presenter said, the data can't talk. And I think that's a really important distinction. Data is a tool. It is a thing that we use as appraisers, but it doesn't have a voice. The human gives it the voice, and that's what we as appraisers do. So I'm really enjoying this conversation, Vincent. What do you see get out your crystal ball and tell me what you think the next advancements in automation are for the real estate appraisal business.
I guess I have a little bit of a contrarian opinion here, and I know the zeitgeist and the buzz, in the general media these days is, generative AI, Gen AI, ChatGPT, all the stuff coming out from OpenAI, and a big question is, even for folks like myself who write software for a living, is like, are we going to be replaced whole cloth tomorrow? I know that that's like a point of anxiety for a lot of folks. And my contrarian opinion is actually that I think, in the real estate industry, it will take a while if it ever happens. I think again, part of that is while we are seeing very rapid advancements in things like large language models, and ultimately at the end of the day, these models are really just very sophisticated parrots, you can almost say. They know what they've been trained on, and to the extent that what you're asking them to generate falls along those lines, sure, it can spit things out. But ultimately, every home is somewhat idiosyncratic, whether it's at a point in time in this particular market, or whether it's an interesting anomaly within the market or the geography. And the main problem is, the main difficulty is that where most of the risk lies is in these tails. The risks don't lie in, the suburban tract home in Phoenix where you have 5 or 6 comps. They're always in the properties that are a little quirkier, ones that are falling just outside the boundary or right next to an adverse influence, or any number of things that I think, your listeners will be very familiar with. So, but I do think what is going to change quite rapidly is I do think that the tool sets are going to change. So the appraiser is likely to be at the center of appraising for a while, but how they do their work, how the data have been acquired, what they're being asked to appraise, and those things I think are going to change quite rapidly. And I think we continue to see, broad advancements in photographic analysis, things that look at quality and condition. Obviously, the impacts of bifurcation and inspections and desktops, those things are going to continue to play out. And I think, appraisers will have to change how they work. They'll have to adopt new tool sets. But I think one of the things that I'm particularly interested in is how these tools kind of act and serve less as a replacement for the appraiser, but as a co-pilot, actually allowing them to do more things faster, allowing them to focus more on actually understanding risk. Where does this property sit in the market? Is it undervalued? Is it overvalued? Are there safety, security, soundness issues? Like all the different things that could potentially derail a loan later. Those are the things that I think appraisers ought to be focusing on. The AI and the tools, they can be useful for labeling, for bringing things to the attention, highlighting, synthesizing, but really ultimately at the end of the day, the appraiser is really kind of like a mini risk manager, where they're making a decision as to whether or not this is good collateral and how much is this collateral worth. And that feeds into, I think, the broader risk that is trying to be underwritten at the lender level. And appraisers have a real role and place in that.
Yeah, no doubt. And you said earlier that even in the suburban tract homes in Arizona or in Franklin, Tennessee, for that matter, properties still have, as you said, they're idiosyncratic. And at the end of the day, the transaction, the entire process, buyer, seller, lender, the whole process, everyone has a dog in the fight. Everybody is earning money off of the process. And the one person in that entire equation that is not getting paid a commission, not getting paid based on what the house sells for, a lot of times is the real estate appraiser. And the reason it was set up that way, I think, is, USPAP talks about maintaining public trust. Well, part of maintaining that public trust, to my mind, is the appraiser is there to, as you said, be kind of a mini risk manager. Here's the single point value of the property today, in my opinion. Sometimes the borrower is very upset because it's not high enough. Sometimes the banks, 2008, I remember a lot of banks saying, oh, it was too high, and appraisers getting in trouble for that. But at the end of the day, if a borrower is upset because the value is too low, but the appraiser has good, solid support for their rationale and conclusions, then that is part of maintaining public trust. The interesting part about AI and big data that the Appraisal Institute is really coming out kind of hard on this issue, and they've got a kind of a catchy catchphrase they're using for it, which is they call it data cancer, which is basically some of the large language models you mentioned earlier. What you feed them, they can regurgitate that, they can spit it out, they can parrot it. But if you don't feed them new information, don't feed them valid numbers, they start to eat their own data. I always envision this Ouroboros, snake eating its own tail situation. But I think for that reason alone, and I've heard several of the people at the GSEs say this, for that reason alone, they can't get rid of appraisers altogether. So that gives me hope. I think you're right. I think, appraisers we're going to have to figure out how we remain relevant in this world. And I think part of that is you've mentioned the word tools several times. I've said it 5 gazillion times to put like a very precise number on it. If I can find a new piece of tech, a new tool that makes me more efficient, that help, the number of times I've sat there in win total a la mode trying to label, things that weren't labeled, and I'm having to go. You talked about user experience, user interface, that kind of business. I've got to go click in a field, select a drop down, go all the way down to other, and then type in whatever the thing is to fix it. If that can be automated, I'm totally fine with that.
Yep. And I think those are the things that I think a lot of AI will make an impact on, is again, like kind of handling, unflatteringly, like kind of the bureaucratic minutia of getting a report, collating all the data, labeling it all, making sure that it all makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the thing that I think a lot of new tools will be available for. And I think I think those are the things that appraisers should be really excited by, because, ultimately it gives them more time, not just to do more reports, but to make better reports, more valuable reports, quite frankly, to increase the value to the ecosystem that they provide, the services that they do.
Yeah, absolutely. Vincent, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today.
Thank you so much.
Is there anything that I did not ask you that you want to talk about? Is there anything that you feel like Hal, you missed that? We need to talk about this one thing. Is there anything that I missed?
Not too much. I think I would just sort of end with, I think the appraisal industry is undergoing a lot of flux. I don't think anyone's blind to that. And I think part of, what I would, maybe a challenge to your listeners is to approach these things, companies, vendors, more in partnership than with suspicion. I think it is a tough industry to break into, but there are people, myself included, that are really trying to work hard to try to bring new tools and technology. And oftentimes when we ask questions, we're not necessarily doing so from a bad place. Oftentimes it's just out of a place of ignorance, where we're just trying to learn the ropes. And we need help from seasoned appraisers, people who've been in the industry for 10, 20, 30 years, to make our products better, to help us work for you. So it's more of a challenge, than anything. And one thing I would also open any of your listeners to is to reach out to me directly. My email is vince@homevision.co. Would always love to hear from appraisers. We always have an open door. We know we can't succeed as a company, as a product, without a lot of help and feedback from appraisers, including your listeners.
I love that. You're going to be at Val Expo in August,
Yeah, we will
the
be about
19th and 21st. So appraisers out there, take up the challenge. Like I've said, if there are new tools out there that will make me more efficient, that are accurate, that are, good tools to use, I'm going to at least explore them. Maybe they don't all work for me. But I think that the request from Vincent to don't necessarily approach interactions with vendors at Val Expo or people trying to help out in the appraisal business. Don't approach them with that notion of, oh, these are trying to kill appraisers. Approach them with a curiosity. Try to figure out if there's a tool there that you can use that will make you a better appraiser, more efficient, those kinds of things. Vincent, I can't thank you enough for being here. Jim Morrison, I'm going to ask you to come back in with us if you can.
How you doing?
Doing real well. Do we need to ask anything else of Vincent?
No, we just want to thank HomeVision for being a sponsor of Valuation Expo, and we're looking forward to seeing them there.
Great. Yeah.
Okay. In that case, if we have nothing else to say, for Vincent Chu and Jim Morrison, I'm Hal Humphreys, and that is your Appraisal Buzzcast for today.